I do want to also turn our attention to some developing news in the last hour or so. This is from the head of the Australian Energy Market Operator. I want to play you this comment and then get Chris Uhlmann's thoughts. He's our political contributor. Let's have a look at the comments from Daniel Westerman, first of all.
But you're saying you cannot guarantee that the current government policy settings which you model will deliver lower power prices?
I can't guarantee that, no. And what I would say is we try to be quite clear about the communication of our message, which is that the integrated system plan, which considers these things, generation storage and major transmission upgrades, is the lowest cost pathway. It doesn't refer to whether it's cheaper or more expensive for that wholesale component, and it explicitly doesn't consider other parts of the consumer energy bill.
Let's bring in Chris Uhlmann. I know this has been a big focus of yours recently. What do you make of those comments from Westerman?
Well, for those people who don't know, by the way, that's Daniel Westerman. He is the head of the Australian Energy Market Operator. So they run the entire electricity grid that runs down the east coast of Australia and through to South Australia. He's developing the government's integrated system plan. So this is the plan for 82% renewables by 2030. So in the next 6 years, we're going to double the amount of renewable energy on the grid. And what he has just said is that he cannot guarantee that the price of electricity is going to fall. Now, that is the explicit guarantee that is made by Chris Bowen. It was obvious to anyone who followed this kind of developments over years, as he should have done, that putting more renewable energy on the grid was never going to cut the wholesale price of electricity, because it's the highest cost of generation that sets the market price. Now, I know this can be a bit complicated, but essentially the parts of your bill where renewable energy could drive the cost down is only the wholesale price, right? That when you've got a low price of generation, that you get a low electricity cost, and ergo they think that brings the price down. Well, the lowest cost of generation doesn't set the price in the electricity market, it's the highest cost. Wind and solar, you don't know when it's going to generate. It certainly doesn't generate in the peak hours of the day. So the price is always set by the highest cost of generation.
So the gas, the peaking...
So it will be gas. So gas will set it some of the time, but what also sets it, batteries are now beginning to set it. So the price of gas in the electricity market in the last quarter was $180 a megawatt hour. That's really quite high. Guess what the price of batteries was? $250 a megawatt hour. So the price of batteries in terms of setting the price in the electricity market, which will become more and more obvious as we do this system, that will get higher. It will also drive up the transmission costs.
But the counter-argument would be the more batteries you get, the more supply there is. Is it not? I'm just giving you the counter-argument that is it higher now because there are few batteries? Yeah. We need more supply in that sense.
So I've been to California, I've spoken to the system operator there, and they have 11 gigawatts of batteries. How long do batteries last? 4 to 10 hours, but mostly 4-hour lithium-ion batteries. You cannot run cities on them. All they do is move the energy from the middle of the day to the ends of the day where the peak hours are. Don't forget, what is the battery's business model? It buys the cheap electricity and sells it for a higher price at the end of the day. That is the business model of batteries. So if there is a very low price from renewables, which will always be in the middle of the day, they'll shift that price at the end of the day and they'll lift that price because that's the way they make money. So the wholesale price is going up. Transmission price must go up because you've got this diverse source of energy that's scattered all over the country, has to be connected by transmission lines. That's 9% of your bill. That goes onto your bill forever. And then there's the distribution costs, which are the poles and wires around the streets. So that's 32% of your bill. Those costs are also going to rise. So what we're seeing now is the beginning of the cost rises. And so Daniel Westerman, looking at the plan that he's developing, is telling the truth. The government isn't.
He's telling the truth in that he can't say it'll be cheaper, but he's saying it's the least cost pathway.
That's a big difference though, isn't it? So what is the cost of this pathway to a consumer over the course of the 10, 20 and 30 years it's going to be? How long will costs continue to rise? Because costs are marching up, and they are going to march up a very long way from here. And the evidence of that is in, right? If the costs weren't marching up, the Queensland government and the federal government wouldn't be subsidising your electricity bill. So, I'm a little disappointed in that because Daniel Westerman told our documentary exactly the same thing, because you can only come to one conclusion about this. It is true around the world, and when you look at marketplaces who have done what Australia is doing, like California in the United States, California has the highest electricity price in continental USA. It is double the average of the electricity price in the rest of the USA.
Does it reinforce the case for nuclear?
Well, I also went to Plant Vogel, which is the 2 units that have been opened in the US, and there's not a shadow of a doubt.
That's in
that whatever
Georgia.
pathway we go
In Georgia,
from here,
yeah.
in Georgia, there's a more expensive pathway from here, whatever it is. But the question you have to ask yourself is, what is the cost of the system and the risks of the system that we're building against the costs of something like nuclear energy, which can provide you with baseload dispatchable power? This is the thing that people have to get into their heads about the generation that we've been building, is that wind and solar, by their natures, do not deliver power on demand. The only way that Daniel Westerman's system actually works is that it's built on a backbone of 15 gigawatts of gas. Now, a gigawatt is enough to run a city of 1 million people.
Do we have enough in the?
No, we
in the
don't.
supply?
So this is just it. So what we've done is we've created scarcity on a number of fronts. We're creating energy scarcity through the fact that we're building a weather-dependent generation system, and we're creating the scarcity in the gas markets because the governments of New South Wales and Victoria in particular have been hostile to developing gas.
But are they waking up to that? Certainly in New South
Too
Wales,
late.
not Victoria, but New South Wales.
Yeah, but too late. So it'll take them 5 or 6 years to develop a gas project. We're now in the circumstance where we're going to be importing gas. We're building import terminals in New South Wales and Victoria to import gas from the United States, from Qatar, when we've got gas under our feet in the states of New South Wales and Victoria, and we haven't done. I mean, we could not have developed a plan that designed to do more self-harm than the one that we've got now. And when he says least cost, he's not saying no cost, and they're not really putting a cost on the cost of every single thing that's needed to support. So with the weather-dependent grid, it needs an elaborate life support system, right? It needs batteries, it needs pumped hydro, it needs lots more transmission in order to make it work, and it needs gas as the ultimate backup to security, and without that gas backbone, you don't have an electricity system.
And nuclear is zero emissions, and it's you've got that high that sort of density of energy as well in the smaller location as opposed to what you're talking about across the landscape.
Yeah, the thing that people don't understand is that we had the lowest, basically, energy generation costs in the world in the 20th century because brown coal fields of Victoria, not export quality. We had 800 years worth of supply. We've decided we're not going to use it anymore. That's the cheapest form of electricity.
Very much enjoyed chatting to you about that. I look forward to your documentary coming out over coming months. Chris, great to see you. Thanks.
Thanks, mate.